Hi, today I want to talk a little bit about morals, ethics, and honesty with yourself. I've talked about morals and ethics in previous videos, but today I particularly want to touch on the topic of honesty with yourself because it's something that I think it's something where I kind of see the stuff that I did as a teenager, and I see that some people take that into adulthood, and it's something that came up with the last video I did. And the last video I did was on the whole with the DMCA thing and the guy that was suing the US government. And I got a lot of comments on that because I was commenting on how a lot of how anti-piracy is set up actually encourages piracy. So I'm on the side of the people that are saying, you know, less people may pirate stuff if you get rid of this HDCP shit. This will only work in this resolution on this device and blah, 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 because it's a pain in the ass. And a lot of people still commented, and I got a lot of messages on it saying things along the lines of, you know, how am I the asshole when there are all these other rich people that can afford it and say, how dare you not pay for entertainment? Just because I'm poor, I don't get entertainment, and it's okay to download because these people are greedy. That's why I don't pay for it. And I could bring up points until I'm blue in the face, but I would be addressing the symptom rather than the actual problem. So for example, with music CDs, as a kid I was all, yeah, freedom, this, that, and the other, I want to download, fuck buying it, the musician doesn't get the money anyway, blah, blah, blah. And I made all these excuses in my head as to why I was okay to not pay for any of my music. I wanted to make it right. I wanted to make it right. Everything that I was doing had to be right, because I didn't have it in me to just admit when I'm being an asshole, which is something that came when I was an adult. And when it comes to music, and one of the things that I'll bring up when people say like, oh, an album is overpriced, what I've always brought up is that, like, everything costs more money. This apartment was $1,600 when I moved here. It's $1,915 now, probably $2,000 next year. My store was much less when I got there. Most of the services that I pay for were cheaper 5 years ago. My accountant was cheaper 5 years ago. Everybody was paid less 20 years ago. A CD has not gone up in cost in 30 years. Every single one of the people responsible for the production of that album has a higher rent now than they did 30 years ago, has a higher cost of living. Everything is more expensive to them, yet the product they're selling is the same price now as it was 30 years. So that's one of the reasons that I, as an adult, I just never bought that argument. I could go into all these things until I'm blue in the face, and people will always have a counter argument. But the thing, the crux of it that I want to get to here is that I find that people, rather than just admit that I did something that's kind of being an asshole and probably wrong, but I can live with it, they have to convert the wrong thing to a right thing. Rather than just admit that maybe I did something that's kind of wrong, you know, they try to convert it into something that is right. So that now they're not doing something wrong. They're not doing something that's, you know, probably illegal or morally, They make it right so that now they don't have to feel bad about the thing that they did. And I would say, check yourself with that, because this is something that can easily roll and just turn into a big mess. One of the things I talked about in one of my older videos on manipulation is that good people don't turn to bad people in one step. What happens is you start here, you go here, this is probably okay. This is probably okay. This is probably okay. This is probably okay. And you go from being the nicest person in the world to being Hitler. It's something that happens in these little steps, one step every step of the way. And that's why I encourage you to be honest with yourself. It's why I encourage you to not believe your own bullshit. I know, trust me, with piracy, I know. I was sitting there in 2003 with my NNTP provider, and I'm thinking to myself, I have two choices. I could wait in for the line for the bus, wait 20 minutes for the bus to come while it's raining, wait 40 minutes for that bus to take me to Blockbuster, spend $6, wait again for 20 minutes in the rain, wait 40 minutes on that bus to go home, or I could click 3 buttons, take a shower, and when I come back, have that same movie. Again, trust me, don't get it twisted. I'm not somebody who's never done this shit. I did it, and I did not care, because it wasn't even about money. It was about the fact that in 2003, you didn't have all the services you have now. It was either pay money and be incredibly inconvenienced, or pay fucking $5 a month, have everything you want within a click. No brainer. What I was doing was copyright infringement. What I was doing was kind of wrong, but I didn't care. I allowed myself to say, you're doing something that's wrong, and I don't give a fuck. And that's all I'm asking of you. I'm not asking you to not pirate things. Again, Man, but I'm not saying don't do it. All I'm saying is be honest with yourself. Cut that shit out of your head about how, oh, well, I deserve it. Why do only rich people get to get it? Because here's the thing I see with that. First, you start with people who are really broke. You start with people who have no money at all. They have no money, and they decide, okay, I have no money, but I want to have this, fine. Then it gets to the point where it's like, yeah, I have no money, but I have a $700 iPhone, and I have a gold chain, and I live in Manhattan rather than living in Brooklyn because I want the luxury, but fuck it, I'm gonna download this thing because I'm poor. And here's the thing. I'm not yelling at you. I'm not gonna get on some moral high horse for downloading or any of that shit because fuck it, I did enough of that in my past. I'm not going to get on a moral high horse and tell you what you should or shouldn't do. All I'm going to say is be honest with yourself. Don't sit there with the $700 phone, the gold chain, and the $4,000 apartment 2 blocks from Times Square and tell me because you're broke you have to do this. Because see, at that point, you are now lying to yourself. And when you're lying to yourself, you now have an inherently irrational thought process, and that irrational thought process is going to carry over to a lot of the things that you do. When you see that there are these companies that are worth $50 million that get caught for having a pirated copy of Office. Again, when you see a $30 million company that gets into some shit for this, it's not because they're broke. It's not because they couldn't afford it. It's because they carried over that mindset in the little chunks. When you have a $30 million company, paying for a license for Office shouldn't fucking matter one bit. It's not going to affect the CEO, how the CEO lines the floor of his yacht or any of that. But it's something that got carried over. And it's something that I want you to think about. Because when you stop thinking, when you change the morals and ethics of the world so that you no longer have to think, it just sets dangerous precedent. And this is something that I talked about in the asshole video, about how sometimes you're going to be an asshole. One of the things that I said in that video that got me a lot of shit was that I had some bullshit papers, and because of my bullshit papers, I got a long lease. And as is the case on YouTube, and as is the case on the internet, everybody decides to come up with the worst possible misinterpretation of that. I'm going to explain right now what I did. I had 2 companies at the time. One company I co-owned with somebody else that had a lot of money in the bank, but it had shit profits. Another company I owned on my own. That company had nothing in the bank because I was broke and I was doing everything myself, but it had very good net profit and it was going up every month. I was asked by the real estate person for specific documents, but if I gave him either of the documents for either one of those companies, it would have looked like shit. So what I did is I gave him documents from company A that looked good in that regard, and then I gave him documents from company B that made me look good in the whole bank account and balance sheet regard. Now, each of those documents was properly labeled. They were labeled with the name of each company, they were labeled with the tax ID of each company, and that labeling was not fine print. It was in bold print at the top of the document. A kindergartner could have looked at this shit and realized that you received documents for 2 different companies. And I knew that this real estate broker was such an idiot and so greedy that even though he was getting a $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 fee for nothing but making an introduction, that he still was too greedy and too stupid to read the print and realize I gave him 2 separate documents. I never committed fraud. I never photoshopped anything. I never, fraudulently created some shit. I showed him 2 honest documents that shouldn't have never been viewed in that context. He wanted information on 1 company. I gave him information on 2. Honest information on 2, but still, I tricked him. Now, I know that what I did was being an asshole. I know that what I did is not something that, again, if that real estate agent was my friend, that's not how I would treat my friend. That's not how I would treat my family. That's not how I would treat a business partner. That's how I would treat a slimy piece of shit real estate agent. I was being an asshole. I'm not going to say that that's right. I'm not going to say that that's how I treat my father. I'm not going to say that that's how I treat my girlfriend. I'm not going to say that that's how I treat my employees. I'm not going to convince myself that it's right. It's a bullshit thing to do. But I tell myself that it's okay on occasion to do things that are wrong. As long as I'm honest about it. I know that what I did was bullshit. I don't care. I can live with myself the same way. I'm not gonna cry over the fact that I downloaded the movie 25th Hour 14 years ago. I can live with myself But I also don't come up with some bullshit about how, oh, well, the poor people deserve movies. We shouldn't have to watch the free crap on YouTube. We shouldn't have to watch Shakespeare Theater in the park because that's all we can afford. We have the right to watch Ed Norton's multi-million-dollar films without paying. Again, I don't build up all that bullshit in my head. I'm honest with myself. I did something that was bullshit. I was being an asshole. It's probably not the most legal or ethical thing to do, but I fucking did it and I didn't care. And I want you to give yourself, if you're going to be doing something that's wrong anyway, the point of this is, I want you to give yourself the luxury of being honest with yourself. I want you to give yourself the luxury of, I am a human, I did something that's fucked up or wrong in some way, and I am absolving myself. I'm allowing myself to not see myself as a piece of shit because I did one silly thing. That's all I'm asking. I'm not saying that you did. I'm not asking you to turn off your BitTorrent client. I'm not telling you to turn off your NNTP client. I'm not telling you to change your life. All I'm saying is look at your actions, and rather than try to change the morals and ethics of the world to make it right, think about it. Is what you're doing sustainable? Would that movie still exist if you have your ad block on YouTube and you never paid for it? Would that shit still exist? See, I do things right now that certain people think are wrong, but I truly believe that they're right. That's why I continue to do them. There are certain things that I've done, again, like downloading the Tori Amos crap before I bought her box set, where it's like, eh. But then there are things that I do where I genuinely believe that there's no wrongdoing. So when I show you how to replace a fuse, when I show you where that fuse is, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I will actually ride that all the way up if the case presents itself to the point where, I will put my ass on the line for it. I will put my business on the line for it. I'll put my YouTube channel on the line for it. I am right now. I don't know how any of that legal crap is going to go. I haven't heard back from you-know-who with the letter that I sent them. And honestly, the letter that I sent them is a letter that most attorneys that I talked to said I probably shouldn't have sent. But I believe in what I'm doing. I believe in it as it being sustainable. If nobody would ever pay for a movie, or ever watch an ad, or ever give money to it, reality is the movie probably wouldn't have been created. But if I decide to show you where a fucking fuse is, again, that company is not going to go out of business tomorrow because I show you where a fucking fuse is. I believe in what I'm doing. I will continue riding that as far as possible because I believe it's sustainable. But like with some of the shit that people do, it's like, do you honestly believe that you could actually? Do you honestly believe that you could have a law created that says everything that everybody makes should always be free? Probably not. Probably not. Probably didn't phrase this well. Haven't had breakfast yet today. Very often, as you know, I don't script any of these things. I say them as they come. I say them as something comes up in my day that makes me think this would be good content for a video. If I save it for later, it just winds up becoming an idea that's forgotten about or just crap. So I probably didn't say this as well as I could have, but hopefully I got my point across. Be honest with yourself, because when you're honest with yourself, you keep a rational thought process, and it's okay on rare occasion to just be human and do something wrong, as long as you fucking own up to it, admit it, and learn to live with it. I didn't hit stop recording.